Every circumcised man is walking around a living daydream. They say that an anesthetic is used, but 96% of the time, the anesthetic is not. The baby will remember from a subconscious and physical level, the doctor's face, the screams of the babies next to him, the pain, everything that happened in that moment has been lodged and shattered into his vital organs and into his cellular levels. In the majority countries of the world, the cut men are the ones that are made fun of. It's just flipped.
I want to talk about the cosmetics industry related to circumcision.
The epicenter of fibroblasts is inside of the foreskin. They sell that to the beauty industry because they can put it into spas, facials, and creams.
I had previously thought, I don't know if you could devote an entire episode to circumcision. I've now come to understand that that is completely wrong. Jenna McClelland.
Alex Eck.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. This topic is very heavy, but so incredibly important. And in the zeitgeist, there's a lot more people sort of talking about this now, but relative to many of the other big topics like vaccines, autoimmune related stuff, cancer, chemtrails. I was trying to stay with medicine, but yeah,
Sorry.
chemtrails, Tartaria, there's so many other topics.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, I mean, relative to so many other topics, this is still pretty much not spoken about, you know? I say that relatively speaking because it is being spoken about more. But I have talked about circumcision on a couple of episodes, one with Nathan Riley, who's a friend of mine that's an OBGYN, and that was a fantastic episode. We touched on it a little bit. And then, of course, with our mutual friend, Veda Ray, we talked about it a little bit as well. And I had previously thought that I don't know if you could devote an entire episode to circumcision because it's a relatively quick topic to cover. And I've now come to understand that that is completely wrong. And you had mentioned off air that you've gone down like 20 hours worth of the Tartaria rabbit hole and some other rabbit holes. And this one is by far the deepest rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Can you comment
digging
on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we just have 6,000 years of history, of hearsay, of propaganda, different cults and organizations that are hosting this topic, that are keeping it controversial and taboo and preventing us from going there. So a lot hasn't been explored. And so I'm basically the frontier with the big old light on my helmet, just like going in and exploring every branch, every element, every space in which needs to be brought to light and revealed due to this awakening that we're all going through. Like, to hear that more or talking about circumcision like that, that is so incredible. And me seeing that on social media and more people talking about it, and the people that hated me all of a sudden, like, they are coming around, the joy that brings to my heart is incredible, because I am pretty confident that in my lifetime, circumcision will be a practice of the past.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you get into looking into men's circumcision to begin with?
Yeah, so kind of intimate, but it's coming up to share. So my first two partners were actually intact. And so I never thought of anything. I saw a male penis and I had a great time. Nothing was wrong with it. It was mechanically smooth, and the way that it felt and the way that I would connect with that man, those were very deep and emotionally mature relationships. And, you know, as I grew older, I started to hear the whispers from other women saying like, oh, well, he has to be circumcised. And I'm like, what is this circumcision thing? Like, what? They're like, yeah, when they're babies, they'll basically just cut off a piece of useless skin. And I remember thinking like, dear God, that sounds awful. But yeah, they're not going to remember. It's like not that big of a deal. And we all like it. It's much better. Men like it too. And I remember being like, wow, okay, I guess I have to adjust to this and be excited for the next time that I actually come across a circumcised penis. And then I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit, I guess, because no other partner had been intact since. And
it's already pretty rare to come across two in the U.S. who are intact.
Yes, yeah. I'm from a southern Mexican border town of Texas.
Got it.
And a lot of Catholics and Hispanic men are not cut.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
So I got lucky.
Okay.
And at that point, in 2020, when I had my mass awakening, the whole phoenix burned to the ground, coming up through all the hours of Tartaria and everything we were just speaking about. And it was a rainy day. I was in a car. I used to be a yoga teacher at a small yoga studio in Westlake. And I was listening to a Luke Story podcast, and a woman named Janice Barcelo was on, and she started talking about circumcision. And I pretty much lost it in the car. I remember it was windshield wipers going down. Not only was that wiping happening, but wiping was coming down my face, and I was in absolute shock. I tried to speak about it to a couple of people, and no, you're crazy. So I even tried to prevent some people close to me from doing it, and that kind of backfired. And so I stopped. And then I was on a sexual healing journey. I moved and transitioned out of the yoga teaching and to understanding women's sexuality from a Taoist standpoint, and harnessing through alchemical practices to engage with more free-flowing sexual energy, how to love my body, how to experience more of the power. Because why is it that I can allow men to see me, men to touch me, feel me, when I was completely ashamed of my body? So if I want to evolve, then I must also be able to come to terms and open the doors of the shame and repression that I had experienced all my life. A lot of sexual shame growing up, a lot of repression, a lot of fear, a lot of rejection of my feminine body. And I knew it was going to be the biggest explosion, or catapult rather, to my healing. And it helped me actually heal chronic asthma. I had chronic asthma since I was a kid. So
can we touch on that a little bit? Like,
sure.
Why, this is a very general question. Why is it that so many women experience that? Because that seems to be commonplace amongst women, especially in Western cultures.
For the sexual repression?
Yeah, sexual repression and shame of their bodies.
Well, it's dirty. I mean, religion, culture, it's shameful, it's dirty, it's gross. Pornography, you do it in a closet, or like behind closed doors rather. You hurry up, you get it done, or don't talk about it at all, or you're a slut. You're not going to be respected in society, and you just cut yourself off and dissociate from the belly button down. And even in the feminine processes of your menstruation, like that was very traumatic. Like the first day that I started my period, which is called the menarche, was the worst, one of the worst days of my life at that time.
It should be like a day to celebrate.
It is. It should. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's a common, I mean, I hear that from so many other women that I know that are close to me, even some family members, that for them, their menstrual cycle, their whole lives has been something they've been ashamed of. And it's like taboo to talk about. It's something you don't want to speak about because it's really gross and weird. And
hide your tampons. The pad is so embarrassing. This is disgusting. In religious, it's like you're an animal at this point. You're dirty, and there's no support. There's no celebration, like you said. There's no welcoming to womanhood and really loving deeply this portal of life and death that moves through you, and what a privilege that is. And let's come together and be in this space and honoring what our bodies came here to create. And that's just been completely shunned and shut out of a Western woman's life. And so we just really don't talk about it. And it was really challenging for me to accept this monthly time of my life. It's like, how many days of my life was I suffering hating my body?
Right.
And it's very common to push away, but like your body is going to keep going. It's like, can't control that.
Right.
So feeling the need to go against my body was a big issue. So there was this huge sexual reclamation, and finally looking at myself in the mirror, looking at my yoni, loving what I saw, loving and having my own pleasure practice, utilizing my breath and the flow of my sexual energy to connect to more flow, in the sense where I was standing on my feet more firmly. This was all in 2020. I was able to breathe. I was able to take up space. I felt happy whenever I would experience my menstruation, the best way that you can feel happy in that time. And I saw such a huge shift in who I was and who I was becoming, and was tapping into a power that was beyond any power I'd ever connected to at that time. And so I ended up developing this beautiful women's brand called Allure, and I made handmade organic yoni oils, intimacy oils for women, so they could too enjoy what I was enjoying. enjoying and experience the power, experience that the beauty of self, because we have to be our first partner. Like we have to love ourselves first. We have to know how to make love to ourselves, know what we like, know what we don't like. How can I expect anyone to know what I don't know or don't like? Like, how am I ever going to be satisfied if I'm not personally, internally satisfied within myself or even know what that looks like, right? So I was pretty certain, like, this is great. Like, I'm going to help the yoni. I'm going to help women feel sexually empowered. And I was living in North Carolina with my ex-husband in October 2023. And I woke up in the middle of the night from the worst dream of my life, like catastrophic, so vivid, where I was a witness to a newborn baby being circumcised in a medical setting. Like, there were two doctors, the table was right in front of me. Everything to the T of what goes down in that room went down in the dream. And this baby called me in to this space, and he was strapped down on the circumstrand, which I like to call also the crucifixion board. And a doctor at the foot of where his feet were ripped the skin off. And then my body like got in closer. So I was like now in front of his face. And I saw like the reactions. So these babies only have like one or two actions at this point in their in time, hours after birth, cry or pass out. So he had no motor skills and just experienced this crazy jolt of pain. And tears started flowing down his mouth, and then he started vomiting because babies vomit and defecate during the act. And he slowly, very slowly, almost like in a scary movie, just turned his head and locked eyes with me and telepathically said, "Do something. Be here. Watch this." Like squirming, so uncomfortable when I woke up. Like I didn't know how to move my body. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to breathe. And all of a sudden the tsunami of fear came over me. And I was like, God, please don't ever let me come back as a baby boy for an hour. Please do not let me come back as a baby boy. At a switch of a chromosome, that could have been me. So some way, somehow I fell back asleep, woke up in the morning, walked into the kitchen, saw my ex-husband and collapsed in his arms. And I could not stop crying for that day hysterically. I couldn't stop crying hysterically for a week. I couldn't even, who do you even share that dream with? He couldn't even hold space for me in that. Who do you call? How do you handle something so viscerally vivid and traumatizing and share that with others to have some soothing, have some comfort in knowing what the fuck was that? So I ended up registering that it was a clear message from something much bigger and much deeper than me.
Yeah. Wow. My goodness. That's like worst of the worst dreams. Let's get into like the actual medical stuff, including the medical statistics on circumcision. I know that it's much more prevalent specifically. I was going to say in the West, but not really even in the West, specifically in the US and a few other countries. And the reason I know that is because when I was playing professional handball in Germany, I had one other American there with me who was on the professional team we were playing for. And in the locker room after practices and games, when we would shower, he and I and maybe one or two other guys were like the only ones that weren't intact. And that was really shocking to me. This was back in 2018, in between 2018 and 2019.
Well, like, it's shocking in what way? Like, because
growing up, it was common to be circumcised, right? And so then seeing so many other uncircumcised people was shocking. Because you just have this perception coming from the US that this is what everyone does, right? Like this is the norm, quote unquote. And then to see that, oh, we were the ones who were the oddballs, so to speak, in the locker room was like, okay, what's going on here with this? And that's when I started like looking into circumcision just a little bit, and then more so in 2020, 2021. And so like coming back to the US, let's talk about like the supposed medical necessity of circumcision?
Yeah, it prevents penile cancer, cervical cancer.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. In air quotes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
UTIs. And it will prevent, it's cleaner. So there's not going to be any infection or any issues due to the way that the anatomy works and how the foreskin covers the glans, which is the head of the penis. So essentially, infection, any type of material, sweat, whatever can get stuck in, and it can cause all types of problems later in the future, in addition to a type of inflammation called phimosis. But it's like, hey, I could get breast cancer one day. So why don't we, after I was just born, why don't we just cut my breasts off?
Yeah,
so it's just, none of it makes,
sense.
it just doesn't make sense. So there's not much to really say about all the data. Go out there, you're going to find the paid for science anywhere you want to look. If you want to find something, you're going to find it. But it's all just propaganda. It's all lies to have a tactic that goes so deep into the core of the human and core of this war on the masculine. So they're going to do everything they can to keep us in that space of really experiencing and the unfoldment of what it's like for the divine masculine to really prevail.
Yeah. If you frequently tune into the Way Forward podcast, don't skip this one. This is personal. If you've ever felt a shift from something that you've heard on this podcast, if it's helped you to see things more clearly, if it's helped you to break down a limiting belief system, if it's helped you just to generally question, or if it's helped you to feel less alone, then I'm asking you from my heart to help us keep going. We're not backed by corporate sponsors, venture capital money, or big donors, and that has been a deliberate choice. And we've said no to a lot of ad deals that weren't aligned because we don't want our mission to be shaped by products, brands, and agendas that we don't actually believe in. There are a few trusted brands and products that do support us, and we're incredibly grateful for that. But the reality is, this is primarily sustained by our listeners and viewers. Right now, this podcast has roughly 140,000 video and audio downloads a month, and it's continuing to grow. And only a small fraction of that actually help contribute financially. That's not a guilt trip, it's just the reality. We haven't said this directly enough, so here it is. If you'd like this podcast to continue, please help support us by becoming a member of thewayforward.com. If even a small fraction of listeners and viewers chose to support, we'd be able to easily sustain this. A membership at thewayforward.com is $99 annually, which amounts to about $8 a month. Think of it like a couple organic kombuchas at your local health food store, or maybe a fancy latte every month. And also think of it like this. In addition to ensuring that we can continue, you're actively supporting yourself in the process. TheWayForward.com is a private membership platform that allows you to instantly connect with aligned people, practitioners, farms, schools, restaurants, and more in your local area. And if the platform isn't for you, we've added a donation option as well. You'll find both of those in the show notes. If you've received something from the show, please consider giving back by becoming a member so we can continue to reach people, not just as a podcast, but as a movement for something good, true, and beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for walking this path with us. You know, from my understanding, there is more medical organizations that are commenting on circumcision being unnecessary. And still, even with that being the case, what are the statistics on babies in the US currently, if there are any, that are being circumcised?
Yeah, luckily right now we have over 50% are not being cut. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we're doing a really good job. And it's just really fascinating that the Midwest actually practices circumcision more than any part of the country.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I guess I'm not very familiar, but yeah, I was just like, wait, I thought it would be more of like a South thing, right? Like a Bible beater type space. But yeah, so, but 80% of the world's cut men are really kind of condensed here in the United States. But then we have Islam and Muslim countries, and they're kind of more dispersed. And they too also are some of the more commonly cut than anybody else.
What about Israel?
Israel, oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
commonplace there, right?
Very common.
Yeah. I want to get into some of like the more just sort of disgusting practices religiously here in a little bit, but
yeah, and it's interesting because I just want to speak about, I'm just thinking about it. I just want to speak upon like your experience in the locker room. Like in a lot of countries, in the majority countries of the world, the cut men are the ones that are made fun of. It's just flipped. They're the ones that are saying, oh my God, like your parents really must not care about you because you were strapped down to a board and raped. So it's just fascinating, regardless of who's cut and who's not, the genital shaming, the genital obsession of how it has to be and what it has to look like is, to me, is just within itself, just gross.
Well, I have a few friends who are awake to a lot of the things that you and I are awake to, that when this topic has come up, they're like, I just don't see what the big deal is in getting it done. I don't want them to be made fun of here. Now, luckily, we have, like you said, 50% or more are not cut, are still fully intact with respect to the babies that are being born now. But with that being said, I could see where they're coming from, because I don't even know of any that I can remember when I was younger who were intact. But I could see where, like, as young boys, you make fun of the one who looks different. Like, I could see where that would be commonplace. And so for a parent, I could see where the fear is sort of, if you start learning about circumcision and the problems with it, it's like, yeah, but I don't want my son to be made fun of.
Yeah.
And that's a problem on either side, irrespective, or, depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, bullying is a big thing. Nobody wants to be bullied. A lot of men have been bullied in their life. It's part of the conditioning that they all have. So if you want to prevent pain in the future as a parent, of course, you don't want your child to be bullied. You don't want your child to be mocked and hurt and harmed, and that to affect them and who they grow up to become. So, I mean, from a certain level, yeah, it comes from this like loving place, but the ignorance that gets in the way is where it doesn't become loving on a certain aspect, because when you find out about the lies, you find out about what is happening, then you realize, like, absolutely not. Go get bullied. Let's coach you out of that. Let's educate you to the extent that you can know how to stand stronger. We can move you through those things together, and you can have that heart-centered relationship to come to me, because you're not experiencing a full cellular shattering that stays with you from the day that you were born until the day that you actually move through the healing, move through the dissolving of the trauma.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a little bit too, because like for me, as someone who was circumcised, it's like hard to conceptualize, like, how do I know if I have trauma related to circumcision? Especially someone like, there's many people like this who have already gone through a lot of other traumatic events in their life. It's like, yeah, just throw it on. This sounds like just another thing. And then on the other side of that, it's like, well, this is really one of the first traumas that many men experience when they're babies. Obviously, there's C-sections and vaccines and things like this as well. But there's something unique about being taken away from your mother and sort of crying out in this way at the immense pain, and then not having your mom come to save you in the middle of that procedure, which is what a baby expects biologically. Can you talk about the procedure itself a little bit? And I want you to like be as direct about this as you possibly can, and don't hold back, because I think people need to hear like the truth of what actually happens with this procedure. Yeah.
I tried my best to come from the heart level, right? We're not going to solve the issue from a mental space. So it's extremely important for me to, I guess, just remind everyone to go into their heart, if they're listening, they're watching, and to just really be and allow the natural essence of their soul to listen beyond a voice of a physical tension, and be brave. We all have to be brave. It takes a lot of courage to go into vaccines. It takes a lot of courage to, and any of it, all of it. It's all having to have the courage. The Matrix keeps us in security, safety, and stability for a reason. And we have to unplug our battery. And so from the child's perspective, he's brought into this world. from the stars, wherever he was in the womb. And he is not separate from mom. The baby does not separate himself. He doesn't even have his own identity, his own individuality until about 6 to 9 months. And a stranger, smells different, picks him up and takes the baby away from his mom immediately. New sounds, new voices. He's used to the mom's voice.
In a hospital environment.
Hospital environment, fluorescent lights, it's fucking cold in there, to a stranger. And he goes into a room where there's other babies crying. You've seen in the movies, like in there's torture movies, and like you can hear, they're like all strapped up, but they can hear their friend suffering right next to them.
Yeah, oh my God, like the Saw movies or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I can't watch any movies like that anymore, but what I used to watch when I was younger, and that's probably what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah. So they lay him down, genitals exposed, and they put him on a circumstrand. It can be a wooden or a plastic board, and it has Velcro on it. So it looks like he's literally being crucified. The only thing that can move is his head. And sometimes they'll even put a device in their mouth that will suck vomit from coming out of them, which is just disgusting to see in general. And they say that anesthetic is used, but 96% of the time, the anesthetic is not. If they were to actually use a full dose to numb him in its entirety, it would kill him. And lidocaine, I had stitches last year. I had chopped off my finger. And they put lidocaine at the base of my pinky, and they create a whole U, 6. You should have seen the bubble. You should have seen, that was more painful than the cut itself. So sometimes they'll use it, sometimes they won't. And they get a probe or a, what are those scissors? I'm having a brain spasm or fart. But they put and separate the skin. So the foreskin is adhered to the glands of the penis to protect the infant. Think about it. He's going to be in a diaper with pee and feces in it. So they have to, it's like your fingernail is literally being ripped off. So they have to get a probe and stick it to separate between the glands and the foreskin. And the foreskin has up to 100,000 nerve endings. There have been doctors that have admitted from the AAP that they know there are up to 100,000. So let's say roughly we have 20,000 that we're seeing in literature in the data, but that's not even being written. And let's say it's even 80,000. Think about how much the clitoris is 8,000.
We're talking about an incredibly sensitive area. I mean, I'm over here squeezing my hand because just the thought of that the cortisol production and the way that the body responds to this is 1.5% up higher than the pre-torture baseline. Actually, remove the percent, it's just 1.5 the pre-torture baseline. MK Ultra knows this, the CIA knows this, everybody knows what's happening here. So they get the probe. Have you seen how they skin animals? They're skinning the skin off, separating the meat from the flesh. So creating this incision all around the base, and then they'll abruptly jerk and pull the foreskin up. And depending on the device that they use, there's some devices out there. We have the Gomco clamp, and then we have the Mogen clamp. The Mogen, it looks like, think of a guillotine. And sometimes they'll cut and they'll chop off the glands. The botches that happen out of circumcision are a lot more common than most would know. So they will push the skin up through a clamp. Let's say we're using the Gomco. And the pressure that clamp produces is the weight of an elephant. And they rip it off. Then they put the baby back down. Usually, like I said, he'll vomit, he'll defecate. A lot of babies have died due to their screams, like their lungs have bursted in their chest. They'll go into cardiac arrest. They're returned in catatonic shock. Some babies will they'll never return back. Circumcision is a huge culprit to cot death and to SIDS. And heart attack,
It's just absolute pain. This baby has been attacked. It's the most insane type of torture. You can compare all types of torture, but we have an infant. Innocence, beauty, strapped down and harmed in the most vicious capacity. And we've all been brainwashed that it's for his benefit. This is for the good of him, and this is going to be good for her because, wow, his wife is really going to thank mommy one day. And they'll return the baby, and they take the baby home, but the imprint of this circumcision will continue to be compounded in car seats, diaper changes. In that moment, the baby will remember from a subconscious and physical level the doctor's face, the screams of the babies next to him, the pain, the slicing sensations. Everything that happened in that moment has been lodged and shattered into his vital organs and into a cellular level. So every circumcised man is walking around a living daydream because the body dreams. That's how a lot of infants, like they wake up, a lot of infants that are fussy after circumcisions, they're having dreams. Their body is dreaming the fear. And why is it that so many men, they can't figure it out. But they don't feel safe. They don't know why. So they get a gun. Oh, I got to get this. They have to be safe. They're not comfortable. And if you're not comfortable in your body, then how are you ever really going to feel that you can enter a space and show up fully as a beautiful, masculine, effective leader? It becomes pretty difficult. So not to get off, and we can get into that later, but yeah, so that's essentially what they do. And they are in extreme pain. It affects the limbic system. It affects behavioral developments. It affects their pain sensitivity, a lot of disorders when it comes to being social, a lot of aggression, a lot of anger, a lot of rage. Like a lot of kids, they don't know how to handle what happened to them. And so they can't behave in a certain way because the trauma is now in their neural network.
Yeah.
And that neural network is speaking to them constantly. And we can get into that later as well.
Speaking of like the impact on a baby's psyche, I'd imagine that there's some level of subconscious anger and resentment, maybe to both parents, but especially to the mother, which is even more messed up because in many cases, not all, but many, it's the mom who brings it up to the dad and says, hey, I don't know that we should do this. Now, there are a lot of women who don't think twice. Fortunately, that is becoming less and less common now. People are becoming a little bit more informed. When I was on the high wire at Del Bigtree, he brought up a statistic related to vaccines. Now, roughly 60% of parents are at least going to skip one vaccine for their kids in the United States, which is really incredible.
Yeah.
If that's true, that's incredible. And so I'd imagine a lot of the same sort of allopathic trends are following suit. So there's less and less people who are circumcising. And of course, you shared that nearly 50% at this point. With that being said, for the ones who do, I know that there's many cases where the wife or the mother will bring it up to the father and say, hey, I don't want to do this. And then the father himself, especially growing up for millennials and generations afterwards, like, what? I was circumcised. What's the big deal? Let's just do it. And then the mother goes against her own intuition. And if she doesn't have the information like we're sharing on this episode, she's not going to really push back. And she's like, okay, we'll go ahead and do it. And then the baby psychologically, again, is taken from his mother, has not fully individuated from his mother. So literally taken from a part of him for all intents and purposes.
Exactly.
And then just violated in the worst way, tortured in the worst way. And then I would imagine psychologically that creates a sort of mother wound subconsciously, if not consciously, for a lot of men. Can you speak to that a little bit? Yeah.
So in all of us, like we are 70%, like I'm 70% female, and then there's that 30% of masculine in me, right? So for a male, it's 70% male, and then the 30% feminine. So his understanding and conceptualization of that 30% of female is his mom. So that's been completely distorted. He has this huge mother wound. He's not safe. He was abandoned. He was betrayed. He was harmed. He was attacked. She wasn't there. He's unlovable. He's unworthy. His body isn't enough. He's not enough. He needs to be validated. He wasn't validated. So that starts to bring up all different kinds of things in him that he's constantly searching for. So if that 30% of the mother that was supposed to help cultivate and design this beautiful picture of what the feminine is and how he is going to have a relationship with the feminine in general, it's now the mom who has abandoned. And so the way that men will look at women will reflect the act itself and within their own rejection of the feminine, because I would reject my father, right? So that's where we'll get into more relationship issues. But like, the biggest rabbit hole, right? Divorce, relationship issues, porn. I mean, like circumcision has infiltrated every single facet of society on a level that like people don't even understand.
Let's talk about that now.
You want to talk about that now?
Yeah. Like how like the second and third order effects psychologically for men and the societal and individual and relational repercussions.
Like I need more space. Like I kind of want to get a little bit more animated.
Yeah.
Can I move this a little bit like that?
Are you Italian?
Can you still hear me? No.
Are you Italian at all?
No.
No. I'm asking that. It's like, the people that I know,
I just need to get like, I need to get ready. I need to get ready because we're about to get really deep.
Totally.
I'm trying to think like how to get there, but we're all connected to the field.
Yeah.
Okay. So think of the field as the nervous system of the universe. And us too, we have a nervous system. So that's how we're all, like, let's say the Charlie Kirk thing or 9/11 or whatever happens. I'm not paying attention to that, but I can feel it. We all have a psychic sense, inclination to, no matter if you're in it or you're not, there's still a shift in me, because that is permeating the nervous system of the universe, which has an impact on me. So we have these huge systems and masterminds. So if we're going to look into, because the reason why I want to go here is because I want to talk about the cultural, the medical, and the religious egregores that are holding all of the degradatory technology for us. So if we're talking about my connection, or rather, how does the spiritual warfare exist in the human body? Can you answer me that question?
I mean,
how does spiritual warfare, how does a spiritual warfare affect me in this physical body?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
In many ways, obviously.
Right.
I think it all comes back to that's the primary thing, though.
The mind.
Yeah.
Our mind and our perception in reality, as the observer, as the soul, we have a mind. How we see and perceive the world is basically a reflection of what we envision God to be, and where our spirituality is, where it isn't, whatever. So the way that the nervous system of the field connects to us is through our nervous system, is through the mind, and the brain is connected to that. So people are responding. Why are people like, trust the science, and they get all like malfunctioning?
Yeah.
So we have these egregores that are in the fields that have infiltrated the psyche of man as neural networks, literal. So when you hear people regurgitate, trust the science, that's just life, that's money grows on trees, it's ugly, cut it, Christ did it, you should too, whatever, people are always saying the same fucking thing. Why is it always the same thing? Because that's not them. It's these larger demonic systems that are literally in the field as masterminds. Here's a better example. Like when we all go to Confluence, why is it that the energy there is so profound? Everyone happens to be at the right place at the right time. Things are accelerated. People are having connections, and we're all tapping into a source. Why are people returning? Because there's a mastermind, there's an egregore, an energy that you have created, that once we walk in, we're all connecting to. In essence, metaphysically, that is a civilization. It's a mastermind. It's creating a new voice outside of these current systems that are feeding into the psyche of man. So we have cultural, okay, the man is gonna say, well, one, I'm traumatized. I have to pass down this trauma. It's in me on a cellular level, but I've been mocked. I've mocked other kids. Boom. It's It's what you do. It looks better. Aesthetics, cosmetics. A foreskin is ugly. It's gross. Anteater, cheese dick, like whatever you want to call it. That is not them. It is a system, part of this, that is feeding into men, which is why I'm circumcised and I turned out fine. That's another one. So then on top of the cultural, medical, you vaccinate, trust the science, it's for better health. And it's just the allopathic machine has totally, on a huge scale, taken over the real programming of the human mind, getting them to behave and do all these crazy things and participating in these dark, barbaric practices, whatever they may be, because they're countless that's happening at the hospital. So what is making a human do that? It's a dark system that is feeding into us. And then you have religion, okay? The Bible when I say the Bible, I love the Bible, but it's been infiltrated and utilized as a weapon to castrate the power of man in his intuitive factors, in his ability to be inspired and to have their own revelation within themselves to harness their own spiritual power. So if we're going to put a cap on top of the crown that's filled with degradatory, limiting, shaming technology, there's no connection to the divine. That has been cut off. So we have these big machines that are essentially working and feeding into the psyche of man. That's how the spiritual war is operating from a metaphysical and weaving itself into the physical. It's through the neural networks and how we behave and how that creates a shift or a perception defect.
I just wonder how much of how society, I'm trying to think along the lines of what's different in, for example, the United States versus many European countries. And of course, correlation doesn't equal causation, but how might mass circumcision impact the way American society operates on the negative relative to European societies or other societies? I can comment on this, and I don't know the statistics in Australia to start, but with that being said, Australians seem culturally very similar to Americans, but the one thing that I picked up on that was a stark difference is that they are so much more chill culturally, so much more chill culturally than Americans are. And a lot of Australians listen to this podcast. They might think otherwise, but I promise you, having been to Australia twice now.
I know they love to party.
They do love to party. That is very true. When my wife and I went on a Euro trip right after graduating from college, the other ones that were out partying that were not from Europe were Australians. So that was pretty funny back when I drank. I don't do that anymore. But that being said, Australians are very fun in that respect.
Yeah.
With all that being said, though, what I'm trying to get at is it seems that men in America specifically have this almost insatiable desire to prove themselves, A, and B, this fundamental unworthiness, fundamental unlovability, if that's a word, that is sort of driving their subconscious and their behavior patterns. And this seems to be, in general, very common amongst men in the United States. Do you think that there's any relationship between those behaviors and other behaviors like it in societal trends and circumcision? Yeah,
I love that you're bringing this question up. So how do I even want to go about it? Because it's so complex and how it all,
of course,
it all works.
Because then you have layers of other trauma on top of it too.
So what I want to get into is first, let's talk about the matrix man. Who is he? Who has the matrix molded men to become? And I like to say that the real AI is the matrix man and woman. So we can have all this fear or maybe all this excitement for all this technology that is upcoming, or the AI revolution of the time that we're in, and all the security and the things that they can do. Yeah, and like that's terrifying in its own sense, but like the real AI is the person operating it. The psyche of man, I'm pretty sure I said this earlier, does not have antiviral software. And so from the spiritual war perspective, they're going to do what they can to mold this person into someone who can't experience their full divinity. And the Matrix man is a complete AI. I can't tell you how many have malfunctioned in front of me whenever I'm talking about what it is that I'm doing. You can clearly see that there's a glitch. The technology has completely mimicked nature. You want to find God, go to nature. If you want to find sophisticated technology, there's nothing greater than what God has created. So everything that we see from the AI and Matrix perspective is based upon a lot of how this operates. So the man is given in his life bullet points, and they are endless. If you don't have these bullet points, you're not a man. If you don't have success, you're not a man. If you can't provide for a woman, you're not a man. If you didn't go to school, you're not a man. If you can't lift 165 pounds with your pinky finger, you're not a man. If you can't fuck 20 girls in a weekend, you're not a man. It's a carrot that men will never catch. They wake up every day because they have a digital version of what a man should look like that has been molded by society, by movies, by Hollywood, by the news, whatever they have to, by their father, by their mother. This technology is running and creating pain, suffering. I'm not good enough. I have to chase. I have to prove. I have to have this accolade. Oh my God, my buddy over there, and he seems to be doing so much better. I'm not a man anymore. And then you go off and whatever, and you're drinking alcohol, whatever the consequence of the byproduct of that is, he will never, to the standards of the Matrix, be a man. And the type of anxiety, the more, there's so much cortisol being poured into his body. It's a habitat for disease. And he's producing more death hormone, cortisol, than dopamine, than serotonin, than oxytocin. Happy, meaningful, bonding, beautiful chemicals. So it's stress. It's, I have to be somebody. Who is that somebody? Fucking know. Who's going to create it for me? But then, here's a list of all the things you need to be. Let's try Lord. Like you can't go off menu. And the stress that puts on him and the pain, I have some men reach out to me and they're like, I'm 29 years old and I was an alcoholic in my early 20s and my life's over. I'm like, what? What do you mean your life's over? And I'm like, yeah, like I feel like I did too much brain damage and I'm just never going to get back. I'm like, bro, you're fucking 29 years old, dude. Like it gets better. Like if you can believe it, but it's so deeply ingrained. You can't talk about your emotions. You have to do anything in isolation. You're a pussy otherwise. And there's no real bonding. What is the true bonding that you see of a stereotypical collegiate man? It's making fun of, it's pranking jokes, it's doing this, it's doing that, it's shaming the other. Like what happened to us connecting at a heart level? There is no heart level. He can't. It's not been activated in him. Because if we're also going to be throwing the circumcised man in here, and not only does he have all these bullet points, but he's tortured and abandoned by his mother. No longer sees women the way that he naturally should and would. And it's just a really sad story of unworthiness. How can he ever feel like he's enough? He's chasing these bullet points, this endless carrot. But yet his body had to be tailored, nipped and pricked to satisfy the matrix and the egregores that are keeping themselves held into the psyche of man, which is perpetuating the problem.
Quick shout out to Podigy, the team that we brought on to produce our podcast. We started working with them last year and the difference was immediate. Way less stress on the back end for us with podcast production, and our YouTube has grown significantly since bringing on Podigy. If you're already running a podcast and looking to boost your production value, or if you're thinking about starting a podcast, I highly recommend working with Podigy. If you check the show notes, there's an assessment that Podigy has put together to give you specific steps to take to grow your own podcast. And that's whether you're just getting started or looking to take your current podcast to the next level. Each month, they're giving away a strategy call with their founder, Justin Moore, and he is incredibly talented and incredibly smart, and he really knows how to grow a podcast from the ground up. So if you're interested in working with Podigy, just head to the show notes and take the assessment. And if you decide to work with them, just mention Alex Zek in the way forward, and they'll give you a nice little deal. You know what's so wild about it, though, is that if there was a sort of widespread awareness on the problems with circumcision, which people like you are really making a really good attempt to spread this message, but if there was widespread awareness on this, then men could maybe draw back to, oh, this, basically everything that you just said previous to me saying this right now, if men had awareness of that, it would sort of soften the, like, why do I chase so much? Why is it this way? Why is my relationship with women not working? Why do I have this resentment towards my mom? Like all these things, all these sort of patterns that come up. But that's what's so nefarious about it, is that circumcision, up until recently, for the most part, overwhelmingly, especially in America, has become so normalized, and it's just what you do. There's no thought of the negative effects, the impact on the baby boy's psyche, the impact on the male psyche once he grows up. There's no thought of that. It's thought of as something good that is better for you to do, just like vaccines. But again, I'd argue in some respects, this might be worse. It's not to say that vaccines aren't bad. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows my stance on them. But the point is, it's like, people are aware of vaccines. And like, even if you get vaccinated, people are aware that, like, yeah, there's vaccine injuries. People are aware that, like, oh, it's still a needle going into your arm. And a lot of people talk about how, like, I'm afraid of needles. It's like, circumcision is sort of a thing that is done behind closed doors, away from everyone. No one knows exactly what happens with it. The baby is intact before, and then he's delivered back to the mother and father. Amputated. And it's just like, oh, that's normal. Comatose. That's what we do. And then you pass them on. And there's no thought of the second and third order psychological and physical effects associated with it. And that's what makes it all the more nefarious, is because for so many men who are constantly rummaging through their mind on, like, why do I have these patterns, that then puts them in a shame spiral where they continue on with those patterns that they have. There's no reference point for them to refer back to on, like, why am I this way? Yeah,
let's go deeper. Yeah. You ready to kind of help them get through that a little bit more? So, well, let me ask you, what's trauma?
What's trauma?
Could you give it to me? Can you be practical? 1 to 2 sentences. Answer for me. What's trauma?
I guess for me, trauma is an event that someone experiences that induces a certain psychological and physiological response that then creates a sort of pattern in their field and in the waters of their body, where if they come across something that is similar to that experience in nature, or they perceive it to be similar to that experience, that same fight, flight, freeze, or fawn reaction will then arise again until it is recognized and awareness is brought to it and the feelings associated with it are felt and is then brought out of the body.
Awesome. Thank you. That was beautiful. Really beautiful. Do you feel like what you just shared with me was very practical?
It can be. Yeah, it absolutely, like, it can be at the level of, let me put it this way. When it comes to something that you do not have a memory of, like a direct conscious memory of, or even a faint memory of, I feel like it might be a little bit more challenging. But when it's something that you do have somewhat of a conscious memory of, it's a little bit easier to heal it. And it's not to say that you can't heal it if you don't have memory of it at all. I mean, I've had experiences doing, various healing modalities related to something like that, not circumcision though.
So from a physiological standpoint, what is healing?
Healing is to get a little bit like metaphysical and esoteric, is the release of that imprint, that scar upon your biofield, and that is being retained by the waters of your body through emotion, which is energy in motion, through just like release, first drawing awareness to that thing and then releasing it. And I sort of view healing like a flower that is growing, and that it's a spiral. Like, it's not that you're going to have an experience of healing something that is so cathartic for most people, where you are then fully healed from that trigger, that wound, whatever it is, that traumatic experience in air quotes. It's like a spiral where you know that you are on the process of healing it when each time you revisit either that specific event or something of that same nature, it's easier and easier for you to, I hate saying deal with, but for you to move through that.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So my biggest thing is practicality. There's so much information out there. We're all stuffing our faces, our spiritual digestive system with stuff. We've got 5 podcasts we're ready to listen to, 8 books in Amazon we want to buy. It's so much, and we have to look at our spirituality as an actual digestive system. And when so much complex information gets compounded in us, we're paralyzed. If it's highly complex, it's not spirituality. Spirituality is simple, it's practical, and it's applicable. And that's what I tell the men that I work with. If you can't apply this, how do you expect to get better? If you don't know, understanding is the first step to healing. Understanding within itself allows for healing to happen. So what is trauma? So it's the difference between understanding, like, let's say, for example, we have a little girl. This is my favorite one that I like to share. We have a little girl and her daddy walks out on her. Was that trauma?
It depends on the perception of the individual at that time.
Great. So that's a negative event. That's an unfortunate negative event. It becomes trauma when it becomes toxic because you make it about you. The loaded gun is now facing you. So you basically say, because the brain needs to know why. Why did that happen? The brain has to have an answer. So you ask yourself that question. And out of that question is born an archetype. It's born an identity. I like to call them entities. We'll get into that later. And you basically say, my daddy walked out on me because I'm unlovable. My daddy walked out on me because I'm not pretty enough, because I'm not enough. So you repeat that in your mind over and over. And what happens? A neural network will be created in the brain, which creates a personality. So if you're repeating that story over and over, I'm not lovable, you're going to feel those emotions. This is where we can start beginning to talk about immaculate conception. What is immaculate conception? Immaculate conception is understanding the metaphysical operations of the mind and what we can create, and the heart and the gestation of the mind, the sperm, the heart, the egg, to create and manifest the thing. So you're basically manifesting and creating over this repeat story over and over and over a neural network. Now, this little girl doesn't feel lovable. So what is she going to do? She doesn't feel worthy either. So what does she do? She's going to have to start proving herself. She has this neural network now. It's in her system. I have to do everything that I can to go to school, to get those accolades, to be sure I'm the captain of the cheerleader team. I have a really good body so I can capture men in the way that I'm conditioned to do. It becomes a part of you. So those voices that we're hearing in our head all the time, the men they're hearing, they're unworthy, they're rejecting themselves, they're comparing one another. Those voices are trauma. Those are those identities, those archetypes. I call them entities because they're assholes. Who's rejecting who and who's accepting this person? And it's just this constant battle of frustration and chaos and pain and anxiety. And that's essentially what it is. So from an infant who doesn't have the ability for language to say in their mind, I'm unlovable, right? So from a cellular standpoint, something in the body was removed. Like when I cut my finger, like I was saying earlier, you hurt your ankle recently. Your body knows. There's a compensation pattern. Something's up. So the body is going to start sending signals to the nervous system. Something's wrong. I'm not whole. So when the baby gets cut, feels all those things, the body immediately, it has its own intelligence. It's going to know something's not here. Something's not whole. I'm not complete. And it's going to feed that back into the brain. And that will repeat itself as the body's trying to figure out why it's not full, it's not whole, and it's going to become a neural network. So that's the very primal thorn of this trauma, is where the body speaks through the conscious mind and develops this, I'm not complete, I'm not enough energy. And so when I was speaking upon Immaculate Conception, this is our ability to create in this world, not only children, but dreams, plans, desires, trips, businesses, podcasts, like whatever it is. We have to be able to have the capacity of our heart. Now, for a circumcised man, and from a metaphysical standpoint, we have to look at the body and how it responds. So the mind is a male genital organ, because think of thoughts and ideas as sperm, right? All these thoughts, all these sperm, all these things
Makes
that you
a lot
want,
of sense. Seeding ideas.
Yeah, that you want to try to capture. Well, whatever happens to the body happens to the mind because it's a male genital organ. So what happens? The mind has been circumcised. So he's not producing all the ideas and thoughts for him to truly organize and design, understand, feel, see his highest self-identity. How can he? He's not receiving the information. It's been cut because the mind is constantly trying to give you feedback. So going from point A to point B, you set a desire, you set a goal, but you can't create. So it gets difficult. You can't ground in ideas. They're frustrated. Why am I not a leader? Why is it that every time I go to this workshop and that workshop and I'm chasing seminars and I'm doing this thing and I keep feeling like maybe there's a little bit of light kind of blossoming through and all of a sudden, wham, they're stuck. And then a low self-esteem imprint will lodge itself into a system. So that's a deep level of suffering for the natural inclination of a man to be an effective leader that we all deeply need right here, right now, to steward this new world. But if he can't believe in himself, if he doesn't know how to go from here to there and in a way of sophistication and a way of that masculinity and that way of direction and being erect and penetrating life. And then the heart, it is female in its essence. However, the way that the heart acts is a male genital organ. Why? Doesn't make sense. Well, the heart releases what? Energy, emotion, love, frequency. So it has also been circumcised. So his ability to permeate and magnetize and to turn that energy back in towards himself, to accept himself, to look in the mirror, not rejecting himself. Why can't I do this? Why can't I open my heart? Why is it so challenging for me to be vulnerable? And it hardens. So he can't accept him. He's rejecting himself, and the self-rejection is a beast, because self-rejection will bleed into his sexuality. It will bleed into the bedroom. And not only that, the energy, when we have our vertical alignment accessible, we receive energy through our gut. Well, the information has to travel within all the neurons within the gut, up through the heart. It can't. The heart is hard now. He's isolated. He doesn't know how he feels. He pushes women away, life away. And then we have the pineal gland. And I'll have you answer this one for me. It's a male genital organ. Why?
Oh man, I've always thought of it as like a receiver. So, I mean, I guess I could see where it's a male genital organ in that it's your ability to connect with, to sort of feel out information and perception from a
psychic vision, to cast out psychic vision.
Yeah.
So that intuition factor, to cast out, to be able to see beyond the 3D and to feel that sense into the next moment or into the next step that he wants to go into. We talk about being at the right place at the right time. So the spiritual connection has been castrated. So these are the fundamental metaphysical connection devices that we have. Someone dies, their body's still there. What do we miss? Their soul. This moment is created by us deeply connecting from a heart level. That is the metaphysical experience of why we're here. It's why we fall in love. It's why we have a purpose. So that immaculate conception has been hijacked completely, which is why men are usually fall behind in a lot of the spiritual realm of whatever it is women are leading in yoga and all of them, all the things. And we can't really figure out why. Nobody can figure out why, but this is why. They've been laid down on a torture device and experienced the most traumatic, excruciating pain as an infant. Their innocence.
Satanic.
It's barbaric. It's satanic. Absolutely. I mean, it's a tradition. So one thing I didn't state earlier is what keeps an egregore alive? Tradition. Look at the Super Bowl. Look at the Olympic openings. Those are so satanic. But we keep feeding into it. Holidays, holy days, certain things. Why are they still around? Because we still keep participating. A tradition is the blood that feeds into the egregore. And so we're participating and using circumcision as a tradition. You had your baby, yay! Cut him, because his wife later is going to be happy and he's not going to get bullied at school and he's going to have a better life and he's going to be clean, he's not going to get cancer.
It's insane.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about specifically what is cut off. Like how, I think people fail to truly grasp like how much is cut. They sort of have this idea that it's just a little bit of skin that's cut off, but it's an entire aspect of an organ that is cut off. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the very beginning, from my understanding, like the history of circumcision, there's so many avenues. 6,000 years, people say this, you say that, read that book, it says this, like
some info about coming from Egypt 10,000 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't stay there because it's not solution oriented.
Right.
And what I know is as a way of purification, they started to see it in Egyptian carvings, like depictions of them cutting men as a rite of passage, essentially. So that basically the anteater part that comes out, that's the pura. That's where they were originally cutting, just so the glands would still stay protected. So the glands needs to stay on top, or the foreskin needs to stay on top of the glands to keep the glands moist and protected. It's an internal organ. Just like the vagina, the glands is an internal organ. So they would cut just enough so where the glands would still be protected, and that would be it. So over time, during the Jewish medieval times, there was this man named Maimonides, amongst other rabbis, vicious rabbis. They started realizing that if they were to take more skin, it would make him conform more. It would be a more torturous type of ritual and ceremony, to the point that it would make the man premature ejaculate. As soon as he even says, as soon as he puts his crown into the vagina, he will expel quickly. So they knew it would hijack the marital bed. And so they started over time taking more skin off. Now, like a lot of men, you'll see hair is growing on their shaft. That shaft is from the pubis. That shaft belongs on the body, not on the penis. So it's also lifting and making the scrotum come up and come tight and come forward. So it's less penis, less girth, length, and skin. It's taking about, I think it's like 50% or like 30 to 50%
of actual needed well-functioning of this organ off.
It's insane.
And yeah, it's totally insane. So, I mean, a lot of the men that I know that have had botches in their stories, the erections are painful. They will not have a beautiful, fully expressive sex life. So the foreskin, it's, you have their perpetual ring. And then when it's a double mucosal layer, so it's skin on the outside, so think like your lips or your eyelid, right? And it feeds back into itself. So it creates the ability to, like, ridged condoms are actually because we're lacking in foreskin.
Wow.
So you'll pull, when you can retract the foreskin back, it exposes other areas of it, which is a mucosal layer that has Meissner's corpuscles. So if you were to very lightly touch your palm, I'm asking you to
okay.
participate with me. I'm just kidding. Very lightly. Those are Meissner's corpuscles. Okay? All of them, for a man, are condensed in his foreskin. They're gone. So when the foreskin is pulled, so it has this ability, so when it goes in, foreskin pulls back. When it comes out, foreskin moves forward. In addition to the foreskin also creating a plug outside of the vagina wall, keeping lubrication in. And the foreskin also has proprioception receptors on it. So the man knows where he is inside of her. So he can be more subtle, know exactly what points turn her on, where she's feeling most pleasure, and how to stay erotically and physically attuned to her pleasure and his as well. So when you pull it back, Meissner's corpuscles, it pulls forward. You have other nerves. I think they're called the Pacinian nerves. There's other types of nerves. I can't really say which ones, but it gives a firing because nerves fire. So it actually gives time for a different set of nerves every time the penis comes in and out to fire and turn back on and come back online. So it's feeding more pleasure back and forth, because even right here on your wrist, if you were to rub it over time, because the nerves are different, the sensation is going to shift and change. The sensation, all of a sudden, it's not going to be so tickly. It's just going to feel...
Right. Yeah, I see that difference doing it right now.
It's going to feel more just pressure.
Yep.
So this is a circumcised man.
Gosh.
And so when the foreskin is pulled back, it creates this really beautiful layer of skin that comes around and up to kind of, that mushroom part that comes up. That's the coronal ridge, and then it comes all the way up to the meatus, which is essentially the pee hole, right? And that frenulum, it's all detached. That ridged band in the frenulum is the highest, most pleasurable erogenous zone in the male body. And the majority of circumcisions, it's removed. So they call it the gateway to consciousness. It's the way for a man to truly feel his pleasure and occupy his genitals, occupy his creativity, his depth, because the male genitalia is the divine masculinity in its full essence. It's the representation from a metaphysical standpoint. So all of that, all the layers, the double mucosal, the pleasure, ripped.
For generations, our ancestors lived in harmony with nature, thriving on a nose-to-tail approach to nourishment. Organ meats, often called nature's multivitamin, were a staple, providing essential nutrients that supported energy, brain function, skin, gut health, and reproductive vitality. Yet today, these deeply nourishing foods are largely missing from modern diets, leaving many of us unknowingly depleted. Let's be real though, most of us aren't eating organ meats the way our ancestors did. Whether it's the taste, texture, or simply a shift away from traditional foods, we've lost touch with this vital source of nourishment. And that's where Paleo Valley's grass-fed organ complex comes in. It's an easy way to reconnect with ancestral wisdom and replenish the nutrients we're meant to thrive on. Sourced from grass-fed cows on small regenerative farms in the US, this blend includes liver, heart, and kidney, freeze-dried to preserve their full nutritional integrity. No fillers, no synthetic processing, just pure, bioavailable nourishment. Those who incorporate the grass-fed organ complex notice more energy, balanced moods, and renewed vitality. sometimes within days. If this speaks to you, you can explore more by visiting the show notes or heading to paleovalley.com/thewayforward. And in this case, forward is fully spelled out. So paleovalley.com/theway, FORWARD, and a 15% discount will be automatically applied at checkout. I want to talk about later on, because you keep on mentioning that you're solutions oriented, like for those men who are no longer intact, who were circumcised, the way to approach healing that, because from your perspective, this can be healed on multiple layers, and we'll get into that later. Because you brought up this spiritual perspective, going back to some of the things that I said earlier, and I want to touch on this a little bit more, the nefarious aspects of this are abundant. And one of those is that under the guise of religious practices, which are at their root like a sort of honoring God in various religious sects and various religions in general. For example, like in the Old Testament, in the Bible, it talks about circumcision being established as a sign of God's covenant with his people. And what's really interesting, though, is that circumcision, at least in the U.S., is so common in Christian cultures, despite it not being biblically accurate in the first place, one, to circumcise. And the second thing is, even if you believe that the Old Testament is talking about the necessity of circumcision as a sort of sign of respect, if you will, to God, the New Testament talks about how circumcision in that act is no longer necessary because it's all about circumcision of the heart. With all that being said, I want to get into some of like what can really be described as satanic inversion amongst several religions that still practice circumcision as a means to show your admiration for, or just to show your, what word am I looking for? Just like your adherence to God's law.
I'm going to have to ask you to say that in a different way.
Okay. In looking at the religions that still practice circumcision, how has that basically just been a satanic inversion of what God would intend? Like
how did essentially Satan infiltrate
these religions?
The Bible.
Yeah, the Bible, or even Islam. Like I would imagine, how do I phrase this in a different way? I feel I'm
starting to pick up on what you're putting down.
If you want to answer from there, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it goes a lot with what I was talking about earlier about the egregores. Now, who are these people, right? Like, we have these authoritative type book writers and rule setters. We have to consider what is controlling them, right? What is inside them? Because even from a governmental level here, we're all or everyone in their campaign, peace, freedom, unity. And how long have we heard that song? Forever. But what's happening?
The opposite.
The opposite. Why is that? We can all agree that from some deep, beautiful, organic level with all of us, we know this is where we want to go. It's a natural part of who we are as love-filled souls to be more inclined in that direction. We can all agree. But what is it that is literally making someone or a group of people put poison on the market through medicine, write in text and command people to chop off parts of baby penises off? What is that? It's something is controlling them. And that thing that is controlling them are these, earlier I said, when I was speaking about that little girl and the neural networks and what trauma is, it's an entity. It really is. Why is it that you can be talking to someone, you say the wrong thing, and all of a sudden, wham, what just happened to Joe? He's a completely different person. He was triggered. Why? Trauma is a person. It behaves inside of us. Trauma steals consciousness and intelligence from our brain. And it controls people. Narcissists, cheaters, stealers. Why are people behaving in these ways? Is because they have these personalities, these entities that come in and sabotage their life. They cheat, they steal, like I just said, and they're writing these laws and they're controlling. So the compoundment of trauma over time is going to condense and create new ones. So now you have multiple spiritual war, remember. So yeah, that's not a benevolent entity to run and to chase and to prove and to hate and to compare and to ego and competition. That's not benevolent. That's an entity. And we all have them. I have them. I'm not saying I'm so clean and pristine, but I work on them and I've dissolved a large portions of the ones specifically when it came to my sexuality. Absolutely. And then my need to be someone. I have to be someone. I have to be that Jenna who shows up and really does something when it comes to circumcision, right? Like we're all chasing that identity. But we have these dark entities that over time, they're so compounded, they don't have any sensitivity to other humans. It gets dark, very dark.
It's no longer their true soul essence operating and running the show.
Yeah, it's those neural networks aren't there. They haven't been programmed into the brain. So when you ask me who and what is making people do this, the people, the body, the person, the real person in that body is a victim of an entity that has taken over them. The people we see on TV, the people we see in magazines, it's just their body, but they're being controlled by these egregore systems. Because the more you are into satanic type and having deep sensitivity, or rather lacking of sensitivity for another human, it's easier for you to be picked up on, to be used to do the things that keep us from accessing our true divine self, or the Christ consciousness within, the evolution. We can grow and personal growth and I'm growing here, but that has a cap. We have to spiritually evolve. And that's not happening when we have people who are being basically taken over by dark, and they've done that through religion, heavily, big time. And they're still doing it today.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I know the stated reason in Christianity for circumcision, I just mentioned it a little bit before, but I'm not as familiar with the purpose of it in Islam or in Judaism. I'd imagine, obviously, Judaism, it's probably related to the Old Testament, the covenant with Abraham for God, but there's, and I don't claim to be an expert on this, nor have I looked into this a lot, but you hear a lot about, specifically speaking to Judaism, the practice of circumcising a baby and then like actually...
Do you know that system? Do you know how that goes down?
No, that's why I want you to comment on it a little bit, because this is still happening to this day.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's wild to me. Not even just happening in some far off part of the world. Like we're talking about happening in the United States. Right now.
3,000 babies a day, but now...
3,000 babies a day.
3,000 babies a day.
Wow.
And a baby dies of circumcision every other day.
Wow.
But it's almost like vaccines. They don't put,
right.
VIRS or whatever, that doesn't report it.
Right.
There's an organization called Intact America, and they started a reporting system for circumcisions, but they're barely just getting started.
Right. And how many people are aware of that?
Nobody.
Exactly. I've never heard of it, and we look into alternative stuff, so I guarantee people who are signing up to get their kids circumcised that have a side effect happen, quote unquote, aren't aware of that.
Yeah.
So definitely underreported there too.
So I've had mothers, like the people the shit I've heard, the emails, the messages that I've received from people all over the world are astounding, heartbreaking, like unbelievable. There's so many, sometimes I forget. I'm like, Jesus, I can't believe someone emailed me that. But I'll have mothers, Jewish mothers. And I just want you to I'm wondering if I should share this, and then let me share the practice, and then I'll share this about the Jewish moms. So it's the Brit Milah that they do 8 days after the baby has been born.
Yeah, that is an Old Testament thing.
Yeah. Yep. And they will, usually the men are the ones holding the baby down, the rabbi is holding the baby down. The cut ones are holding, trauma begets trauma, right? They're holding it down. From Jewish mothers, I've heard that the Jewish women will basically crowd the mother and put her into another room sometimes because she's in so much misery. Because they've all been to these Brit Milahs. They've seen it. They know what's about to happen. She knows it's about to go down. And certain moms have said, you wouldn't believe the brainwashing that these other mothers are trying to convince me, because some are actually rebels. They won't do it. And they're so ostracized, so like frowned upon. And that they'll be like, hey, let's go to the other room. Let's talk about fashion, shoes. Maybe we can go get a facial. Let's start planning things. And she's literally like just trying to hold her breath or to hold it together until it's done. So raping child and then consoling and trying to convince the mother it's just for the benefit, right? So the rabbi will grow, and depending, we have the Brit Milah, which is just the circumcision, and they don't use anesthetic at all. They don't have a degree, they don't have a license, but you can buy tools. You can buy circumcision tools on Etsy.
That's fucking insane.
Circumstance go up to $1,000. An Olympic something model. I don't know. It's absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts.
And I'd imagine that they're able to hide what are fundamentally medical practices, all discussions on like the necessity of licensing aside, because I'm not an advocate for that. But all that being said, with the current way things are, I'm sure that they can sort of hide behind the quote unquote religion thing so that they can do what is fundamentally a medical procedure.
Yeah, exactly. They're that umbrella. And here's something fascinating that I just thought about. So you know how everyone's kind of updating their passport and everything?
Yeah.
So I was looking through all the material. Now I read the contracts. So
yeah.
You want to know a way that you can prove that your son is an American, is a citizen of the United States?
What, circumcision?
Circumcision record.
No way.
Yeah, it's just as much proof as a birth certificate.
Fucking insane.
Yeah, I found that out last year. I remember I called Veda. I was like, girl, like.
I doubt many of her clients will be using circumcision record or anything like that. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, back to the story, I guess. So the rabbi will very traditionally, depending on how deep they are into the practice of Judaism. So there's more Hasidic, there's more like devout, and there's some more like casual, right? But the rabbi will have a sharp thumb. He will like grow his thumbnail and sharpen it. And he will use his thumb nail to create the incision around the infant. And he will use his thumb and his finger to peel the foreskin.
With no anesthetic. What the fuck?
There's a next layer where the rabbi will then, after they've really pulled all the fibers off correctly, frenulum included, and they will suck the blood off the penis of the baby. It's called a metzitza bipe. And spit it into a goblet, into a cup, and pass it around for people to drink with their wine. This is the gravity of the demonic forces. What is making those people do it? Remember, their mind is being controlled from a spiritual standpoint. It's in them.
You know what's so wild about that specifically? Because I know this is still practiced in Islam too. So I want to like say that that's abhorrent in and of itself. But I am willing to bet, and this is a whole separate conversation, that you can speak openly about how that is morally reprehensible with respect to Islam. But the moment you talk about it being morally reprehensible from a Jewish perspective, you're automatically labeled anti-Semitic. And it's like,
I don't care.
Yeah, you know what I mean though? Yeah. Like, especially like nowadays, luckily a lot of people are realizing that's just a label thrown around for anyone who is critical of the Israeli government, of Zionist policies, of radical Judaism, just as I'm critical of radical Islam or radical Christianity, like Christian nationalism. Point being though, that this is another example of hiding behind the label of, oh, that's anti-Semitic to speak about that. And it's like, no, this practice, just like those policies of the Israeli government, are fucked up. I don't care who you are. It has nothing to do with being anti-Semitic.
But think about what's that statement to begin with. It's an egregore.
Yeah, it is.
So you're not even meeting with that person. So whenever I get that,
have you gotten that for speaking out about this?
Actually, I have not.
Okay,
I've gotten a lot of other things, but anti-Semitic has not been one. But like, you can't, like, I don't care. But because when you start to recognize these certain statements that people keep making, it's not It's not them.
No, it's not
That's
them.
when you know that's a deep demon. That's when you know they have an entity inside of them. That's when you know that from here, I'm going to, as a sovereign, I'm going to conserve my energy because you are about to be a vampire. That entity will never be satisfied, ever. So it's going to, and it's just like, I can't do that. Whether it's a bot on Instagram or like people having these opinions, I can see them. They're everywhere. So
I don't even respond anymore. Literally do not
right.
I'm not even bothered to, if someone posts a really long comment as this one chick has been doing repeatedly lately. And luckily I've taken a long social media break. So as I'm coming back, I'm like,
for you,
I don't need to respond. I don't need to respond to you. I have no desire to. I don't need to defend myself. If you disagree with me, fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And that's beautiful because that's how the dark actually captures us, is through needs. And needs is an actual thing of the entity. It has needs. I need to be successful. I need to be worthy. Therefore, I'm going to be doing all these things that I need to do to prove myself, so you don't get to that original feeling of me not feeling worthy, of me not feeling good enough. And so the more needs that we have, the more you realize that that is the trauma speaking up. Like, I know I want to stick with this because this is a really big part of the conversation, but we can also close up the one on Islam if you want to go a little bit.
Yeah, go into Islam a little bit, and then I want to go into the cosmetics industry and how that relates to circumcision and the business of circumcision. And then I want to talk about the whole last half, the work that can be done to reconcile this for men who have been circumcised.
Yeah. Yeah, so Islam is tricky because every family unit or sect has a different way that they go about it. But what I have seen and what I've heard, well, actually I received an email from this kid. He's like 19. He wouldn't state where he was. He wouldn't give me his name. But he was in an Islamic country. And he said his parents waited until, because they normally do it for the boys from 7 to like 12.
So when they're much older.
Yeah. So they're like waiting all their life. No, they know everything. You can even try to even go into the rabbit hole of comparing which one's worse.
I know.
Don't do it.
Like how you have
I'm telling you, the rabbit holes are endless. And then the intact men and all their sexual trauma, it's a whole thing. So he said, my parents didn't want to pay for me to go to a clinic. So my dad and my uncle held me down in the kitchen. And I was experiencing so much pain while my family watched. They didn't want to pay. So they just did it. And he was like, the amount of trauma that I have from that, I was like, I don't know how I'll ever get over this. And I'm like, what can I do for you? What can I do? I'm just terrified. He just needed someone to share that with. But they have these circumcision parlors where you'll see these boys waiting in line on these seats, almost like you're at like a pediatric office, like a pediatrician's office. And they have all these beds in a room. And almost like everyone's getting a C-section. You know, they put the thing, whatever. So the kid will be on some like Nintendo, maybe it's like a cart or like they're riding a bus on some, I don't know, device, while the other half of their body is getting cut off with anesthetic, which is nice. But afterwards, you'll see them come off the bed and they give them like these cups, like these like almost jockstrap type cups. And they're waddling off these beds and out and crying hysterically. But they're not suffering, but, you know, they knew this day would come. And so imagine that within itself, that horror. So trying to even compare the two, I mean, it's inhumane regardless. Like it's horrible. So I personally think that the infant might be worse than, because at least the kid has moved through theta a little bit, right? There's a lot more space for there to be movement and healing and forgiving family. But the infant, I mean, that's that much more time. And then the attack of not knowing, you're just literally came in from heaven and here you are being crucified.
Well, on the healing aspect too, the no reference point, like not an established memory in your psyche, you know?
Yeah.
At least that you can
it's in the body.
Upon. It's in the body for sure.
Yeah. Like I have men, they'll have hallucinations where they'll see, it's specifically for a man who has a very imaginative, vivid mind and dreamscape. They'll see knives coming at them. Many men will tell me they have dreams. They've had dreams since they were infants.
Holy shit, I just realized something for myself.
Yeah. Tell me.
My wife, I wish Kylie was here because she'd be like, oh my God, she and I would be having the same thought right now. When she listens to this, she'll know what I'm about to say right now. I am so like OCD, like to where it's like, okay, you have like a complex surrounding this. And I've even thought like, well, maybe in a past life, I died of a knife attack or something. If there is a knife on the counter at all, like I push it back against the wall. I'm like, I don't want anyone accidentally running into, like, to the point that it's a little weird how much I'm concerned about knives being around. Like even if it's on the drying rack, I will like quickly dry it off, put it away, or just make sure it's not anywhere even close to where it could fall off, even if it's not about to. But I'm so OCD about knives. Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, so like what the brain will do, because remember the body has cellular memory. We have cellular memory. We remember these things, and the body can send out daydreams all throughout the day and these signals. Because there's multi-layers of our dream realm, and we mostly think of it psychically, but it also can happen on a physiological level. And so anything with sharp objects can terrify subconsciously men. And many say that they have dreams where a man is chasing them. So what the body will do, it can't articulate fully the doctor itself, but it will make up a scary man of some sort with something sharp that haunts them at the foot of the bed, or that's chasing them. And you want to know something even more fucked up? Is the boogeyman is actually a security blanket for why children are so scared at night. It's because of circumcision. Well, they had to give it a face. They had to give it a name. They had to give an explanation because they didn't know like what it was. But all these boys are having this extreme fear, so they just had to call it a boogeyman to remediate and soothe a little bit. Oh, don't worry, it was just the boogeyman.
Yeah.
But no, it's coming from the circumcision. It's coming from the attack. Remember, the shatter of fear is lodged into the cells.
Well, it makes sense for young boys who have issues sleeping on their own, and that's a whole separate conversation, especially like on the cry it out thing. That's absolutely fucking insane.
Oh, don't even take me there.
Right. But like, because what I'm getting at is there's layers to it, but at the least, speaking specifically to circumcision, it would make sense how when a baby, again, is taken from his mom, this horrible act is done to him, and then he's just thrown back to his mom, that anytime he is then separate from his mother in any other context, he immediately has, this fear that naturally comes up. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's very sad. It's a really big thing. So it's just really, again, remediating that and dissolving that neural network.
I want to talk about the cosmetics industry related to circumcision, because this is a whole separate rabbit hole. I mean, you talk about the rabbit holes being endless in this, but like there's a huge link between foreskin and I'd imagine even some of the blood related to the procedure being sold to cosmetics brands, from my understanding. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So did you say something about blood? I don't know about blood being sold. Did I hear you wrong?
No, well, I said possibly blood because I've heard that, but I've never been able to validate that.
I haven't personally heard that. Okay. I can't comment on that. What I can comment on is a lot of blood is shed.
Yeah.
For sure. It's a bloody mess. The things that they do to have to clean that up. But they sell the foreskin. Well, first we have to understand why. Like, what's the benefit of this foreskin? There are fibroblasts in the foreskin. And I like to call the fibroblasts the stem cells to connective tissue. So a fibroblast, so how does the body even shift? How does the body grow? How does the body know how to adapt? It's the process of homeostasis. And when there's a force that's applied onto the body has to create a shift to adapt to that force. Which is I don't know if you ever do mobility work. I was a mobility specialist for a long time. And you have to apply a certain level of force to create change. Well, what you're trying to do in that work is getting the fibroblast to activate to turn into exactly that type of connective tissue. Bone, skin, cartilage, muscle tissue, whatever that is. So think of the epicenter of fibroblasts is inside of the foreskin. So they sell that to the beauty industry. The beauty industry is a huge buyer because of the fibroblasts, because they can put it into spas and facials and creams and all types of things that may or may not be disclosed that are on women's faces. Burn units are also another thing because, again, the fibroblasts can create the skin rehabilitation. And go on.
No, I was going to say it makes sense why at some level I'm just always looking at sort of industry incentives on why this absolutely satanic practice is still around. And I'll give you an example of like, this is going to relate and you'll see how. The biggest lobbyers for income tax to remain are companies like TurboTax. Like that is some of the biggest lobbyers for income tax to remain because it would absolutely destroy their business model. They're like, well, fuck, if there's no taxation, then like, what do we do? We're literally gone as a whole industry. Likewise, with many of these beauty brands that have this in their product, I mean, this is all over the place with respect to government and its policies, but like it makes sense on why, even though it's becoming more clear and more accepted in the mainstream by medical organizations that this is not medically necessary, it's like, let's just kind of like not say much about it because the beauty industry is paying us millions of dollars in order for us to have these products or this substance in our products. And let's be a little bit quiet about it on the government front because the beauty industry is lobbying related to this, blah, blah. You get what I'm getting at. It's like, it makes sense on why, at least at that level, this is so unspoken about because there's a whole industry that profits off of this. And that's without even getting into what we've already gotten into with all of the like psychological trauma and being able to control someone and then just the repetition and the passing down of trauma.
Yeah. Well, why don't we throw in one of those lobbyists, Pornhub?
Yeah, my God.
And then antidepressants and therapy and lawyers, divorce lawyers. And I mean, like, it just everything, the sexual wellness. I remember saying before circumcision came to become something that was like hey, I'm gonna do this. And there is no sexual wellness industry if we are not talking about the most fundamental barbaric practice of circumcision and understanding why do these products even exist in the first place because of circumcision. Lube, huge in the market.
Wouldn't be necessary.
It wouldn't be necessary because the glands is an internal organ and it also creates excitation and it helps the production of lubrication for the vagina. And the vagina, you know, women have our own repression. We're cut off from the belly button down. All those neurons, all those blood vessels are closed off. They're filled with shame. There's stuck sexual energy there. It's repression. It's gross. It's dirty. And it's not active. Like literally, if you had your shoes off, could you literally move your middle toe automatically without moving the other ones? No.
I've done a lot of footwork.
No, exactly. So like we're cut off. We can't do that. We're cut off from our feet. We all know about these shoe prisons we're wearing. So like it's the wellness industry, the sexual wellness industry is not discussing this at all. And I've had men approach me that are a part of very large men's groups that still to this day, like healthy, spiritual men's groups, they will not talk about it to this day. So it's everywhere. I can buy a vial of it for $1,000 if I wanted to right now.
You could right now?
Yeah.
Like even outside the beauty industry?
Yeah. You can buy the fibroblasts from human baby foreskin.
Yourself? Like
in a vial where they've compounded it and gotten the fibroblast into like a syringe where you can, yeah.
Like even if you without a medical license, like you could just buy it.
I'm pretty sure, because I didn't go all the way to checkout.
Yeah.
But like it seems pretty feasible.
God dang. That's insane.
I remember seeing that and being like, oh God, this rabbit hole keeps on going.
Yeah.
But it's, it's responsible for divorce. It's responsible for any of the drugs that we're taking, alcohol, porn, sexual wellness, and everything else. So
I want to talk about the approach to healing this for men who've been circumcised, especially related to what I brought up earlier on like, from my perspective, it can be a little bit more challenging to heal something that is not a conscious memory. Not that you can't heal it, but like when you don't have memory of it, it seems to be a little bit more challenging, especially if it's becoming clear that that thing that happened does have a tremendous impact on you. So what have you developed and what approach do you take to help men sort of reconcile and heal this? So
I said earlier, I'm very practical. Like this needs to be understood so that you can move on with your life. Like we're all acting like we're in some emergency healing room and we're healing this and that and this. And we're going like enough. Like we're here to enjoy life.
That's such a big point because healing culture is becoming so lame. I'm being so turned off by it. It really is.
It's an addiction,
Yep.
but it's not working.
Yep.
Why? Because it's not practical.
Yep.
And you can feel your way all through the thing, but if the neural network is still in your brain, which you need your brain in order to heal, it's going to stay there. There might be some movement, there might be some more freedom, but those voices, those assholes, those entities are still going to be controlling your life, sabotaging the things that you're trying to do, making you have these needs. The biggest things for men is, I call them the 4 venomous dragon heads, are the need to be respected, the need to be seen, the need to be wanted, and the need to be successful. Those are the biggest ones that rule a man's life. And if you were to really think about a need is a prison.
Because it implies it's something you don't already have.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if I need that from you, I need you to make me feel safe in this moment. I need you to love me like this. A whole human has no needs. Our true divine self is whole. We are God in the flesh. When we are whole, you can't add anything to it. You can't subtract anything to it. You don't need to be respected. You don't need to be successful. You don't need to prove yourself. Is the tree outside asking for having needs and saying things to the other tree? No. Is the sun saying, I give you light and vitality. You give me this? No. Is God as abundant as God is? And so compassionate, given all the things that we've done to the earth. Does it need anything back?
No. Most healthcare today operates on an outdated mechanistic model, treating the body like a battlefield rather than a self-healing system. You wait months for an appointment only to receive a rush diagnosis that labels you rather than truly understanding your unique health. Even in holistic health, many practitioners rely on endless lab tests and supplement protocols, addressing symptoms instead of the root cause. And the result? Another prescription or supplement regimen that merely suppresses or masks symptoms rather than facilitating true healing, whether the imbalance was physical, emotional, energetic, or a mix of all three. And that's why Dr. Tom Cowan co-founded the New Biology Clinic, to offer something radically different. As one of the most respected natural health doctors in the world, Dr. Cowan has spent decades challenging conventional medicine and advancing a deeper understanding of human biology, water, and natural health. His work isn't just about rejecting the mainstream, it's about offering a more truthful, biologically coherent approach for healing. The New Biology Clinic recognizes that health isn't about fighting disease, it's about restoring balance. You're not a diagnosis, you're an individual with a unique story, and healing should honor that. With virtual consultations available worldwide, the clinic offers a flat-rate monthly membership that gives you direct access to practitioners who take the time to actually listen. Members also get exclusive health live streams, a resource library, and live sessions covering everything from biofield tuning and breathwork to movement and meditation, all designed to support whole body healing. And if you're not ready for a membership, you can book a one-time appointment, sign up for an enrichment-only membership for the healing modalities alone, or schedule a free connection session with one of the care team members to see how the New Biology Clinic can help in your specific situation. This isn't about keeping you dependent on doctors. It's about making you sovereign over your health. Head to newbiologyclinic.com and use code THEWAYFORWARD, and that's spelled The Way, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, for $50 off account activation, or just head to the show notes for more info. If you're a member of The Way Forward, email hello@thewayforward.com for $150 off. Your body already knows how to heal, and New Biology Clinic helps you remember. Have you heard the story of, I don't know if you listened to my episode with Dr. Edith from last year?
I love her, but I don't think I listened to that one specifically.
Oh, good. So in the episode, she talks about how she had this basically vision. She sat down in a chair on this hike. I think she was in South America, sat down in this like ancient chair, and immediately just had a flood of visions of other people who had sat in that chair. And then the spirit of the earth, Pachamama, appeared to her.
Wow.
And she was like, instantly felt shameful of like how many times I've mistreated you, the earth. And And Pachamama was kind of like, oh, honey, no big deal. It's seriously not a big deal. There's nothing you could do to permanently harm me. I understand that you're just like a baby in your childlike phase. And it's just like when a baby's eating a meal and it makes a big mess, it's not meaning to, it's okay.
Yeah.
Point being that like the earth doesn't need anything from us. The earth is just abundant and loving and unconditionally loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea of the work is to help a man understand practically what this is, what trauma is, what the needs are, how to dissolve them, and what is keeping the Christ within us asleep. When I say Christ, I'm saying the true self.
Yeah.
The higher self.
Yeah.
God. What is keeping the Christ within asleep? We all have access. Christ consciousness is consciousness we can all tap into. It wasn't just one person. He was tapping into an entity, into an energy that allowed him to access this purity, this rebel-like against these other systems that have all these needs. And I explained the grave. So what's keeping men asleep in a spiritual death? In addition to everything that I said, it's like I am the body. We are so attached to the idea that you are the body, that you are creating permanency in it and holding the trauma in. We are not the body. We are a soul that has come into the body. This body has given me the opportunity to feel pleasure, to feel pain, to laugh, to skip, to dance, to fall, to break. So I could have the complex experience that I came here to have meaningful memories that are created to be abundant, right? So it is my job to make my body a beautiful place to live in. But I am not it. So when we attach to the body, that trauma is going to be there because trauma is not real. What originated with creation is real. What is real, you cannot remove, you cannot alter, and you cannot change. If you can heal trauma, dissolve trauma, is it real?
No.
No.
And what's wild is that because of our co-creative capacity, it's like we are unwittingly creating that aspect as if it is. You see what I'm saying?
Totally.
That's all that's happening on a very, very deep, sometimes like deep subconscious level, but that's literally what's happening.
Yeah.
Is that we are using our God-given co-creative capacity to create that inside of us unwittingly.
Yeah, and it's really understanding that there's the difference between creation and the world. We are in the world, but not of it. So even love in the world, in the matrix, has been completely fabricated. They're two. Love is separate from what it truly is as it originated with creation. So essentially, it's like you are not the body. Trauma isn't real. You were never circumcised. And that energy allows a man to transcend circumcision trauma. He rewrites his story, rewrites his life. We create new neural networks in the brain that allow him to tap into his infinite ability to create in this world, to access his vertical alignment. What is vertical alignment? Vertical alignment is the language of our higher self. And within vertical alignment, we have intuition, revelation, and inspiration. How else do we navigate life? You could be in the middle of a Bob Ross painting, right? And let's say that you're in this painting and you don't know where to get from that mountaintop to like that tree point, right? So if you're in the painting, how do you know where you're going to go? How do we know how to get anywhere in life? We have to be able to have the ability to have that vertical alignment active, intuition, revelation, and inspiration, to be inspired to happen to go over to that rock over there and then be inspired by a bird that comes around and then we finally find our way. But we can't get to where we want to be. The higher self cannot connect to us fully if those pieces of our alignments are not activated. So it's
I don't remember where the rest of the question was and where I was going
it's just
from
like,
there.
What, for a man who is already circumcised, it's like the understanding that the soul is completely untarnished. You cannot kill, you cannot alter the soul fundamentally. I don't care what anyone says. I just don't believe that you can. I don't believe that man can actually do that. Can man make it incredibly challenging for the soul to express through the vehicle of the body? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. But I don't think that you can fully tarnish the soul, at least not permanently in any way.
No.
Right? There's some implications for karma possibly, but that's, again, all speculation. We can only speak to our direct experience right now, in my opinion. But with that being said, it's like the understanding that the soul was not circumcised, the body was circumcised.
Right.
But then there's an element of, in a lot of spiritual circles, there can be threads of leaning too heavily on non-duality and who you truly are, with a hint of spiritual bypassing and disassociation, where you become so enamored by and focused on reconnecting, in air quotes, with the soul, that you disassociate from the physical body in this life experience. That doesn't sound like that's what you're saying. I just want you to clarify how you don't need to get into all the details, but just in general, how you take a man into that understanding while helping him get more deeply into the physical body and express his soul through it, rather than disassociate from the physical body, because the understanding that, the physical body was circumcised, not my soul. So therefore, subconsciously, I'm going to distance myself from that physical body. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's completely dissociative, and that's definitely not what we're doing. So when we were stating the things that are in what keeps the Christ self, the true self, in the grave for men, it's the I am the body, right?
Yeah.
And then it's the I am my accolades, I am my achievements,
I am my labels,
I am my labels,
ideologies.
I am my materials, my cars, my house, whatever. Another one is I am what people say about me, my reputation. And so you're constantly trying to prove and be something to appease other people. And then I need something outside of myself in order to heal, in order to be whole. And so those ideas, those thoughts, those needs are what's keeping us from actually understanding that, yes, we are a soul, but we're in the body. Like, we're here to have the 3D experience. I'm not trying to take you all the way up to Pluto or Timbuktu, whatever. I want you here. I want you grounded in your body. I want you to feel what it's like to be a soul in this space. I want you to own the beauty that you are, no matter how it looks on the outside. So a lot of body reconciliation is also another layer to the work that is done to, again, move into the space of also noticing the mirror is actually a portal. The brain will see two people. So you can speak. I give mystical languages to men to speak into the mirror, so that they are ultimately creating a new timeline from the brain as this new version speaking this beautiful prayer. It starts to pave the way for a new timeline to be lived. We're creating new, like I said earlier, new neural networks. I can have that job. I can have that woman. I can move outside of poverty consciousness. And I want to touch on poverty consciousness just for a moment. Like, what is keeping the light from winning this war, right? It's like we're all so in this limiting abundance when it comes to our finances energy.
Especially in the quote unquote alternative spaces.
Yeah, like the dark don't give no shit. They're like, let's get together and throw all this money. We lost it. Great, let's do another. They are like, they don't stop.
Right.
Oh no, I got a bump on my knee. And it's like, oh, we must stop the whole plan altogether here on this side of things. Like, we have an obstacle and then we feel so bad about it that we just get down. Like, we have to elevate up into a higher realm of consciousness, a higher realm of experiencing this body on this earth, to have the highest timeline, to have the ability to be this effective leader. Like, the blueprint of nature is for us to heal, is for us to evolve, and for us to serve. Now, let's heal. Let's get out of this emergency room. How are we going to evolve? How can I help you elevate into a higher realm, feeding you more channeled wisdom that I channel a lot for my clients? Feed in that evolution. How can you really tap in? What is your purpose? What is your assignment? We're not here by accident. There's not a single human. And do you know how many souls are dying and wishing to have this experience? But we all have an assignment here. So I teach them and help guide them through dynamic questions. Who are you? Who is that energy that you came to express and to steward, to leave this place a better place than how we arrived, and to serve? That is the natural essence of the divine masculinity. He is an observer. He doesn't pick sides. A vertical alignment is active. He doesn't need to keep a gun or a knife on him in the sake of there needs to be a safety thing. No, he is touched in with God. He has his resources. He knows he's going to be at the right place at the right time. He is not going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And so when this is coming up and he's an effective leader with that immaculate conception ability and to show up, and all the things that I stated, not being able to go from point A from point B, can go from point A to point B, can go from point A to point Z, can look at himself in the mirror and love himself, love the body designed that he is, and have that free-flowing sexual energy through him, which is, we don't have to try for sexual practices. We don't have to try to find this or get that. It is natural when we have free-flowing sexual energy. We just are creative. We are just inspired. We are aligned. Everything is operating synchronistically and beautifully in the way that nature is operating right now. So it's just this, depending on who's coming in, everything is very curated specifically to the man.
I appreciate that.
That I work with.
It's tailored towards the individual.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it can get complex, especially with the layers and the variances of life experiences from man to man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have this divine mother aspect to me. My mentor was asking me the other day, he was like, Jenna, why do you love this calling? So like, what about it? And I just said, the fact that I get to love men more than anyone has ever loved them is why I'm here. Like, I wake up every day so thrilled that I had a dream and that I was chosen in this little body to speak upon the most controversial topic known to man, and to stand up, to see them in such a beautiful light, to know that like women are desperate for them and they have their own stuff. That's a whole nother conversation. But for me to see something in them and for them to finally see that within themselves. And a man, you don't tell a man what to do. You ask him questions. He comes up with his medicine. And that's what I facilitate. Through these beautiful, I unlock untapped frequencies in him. And I support him through that process. And I make it simple. And we have fun. And we laugh and laugh and laugh. I'm laughing on the floor rolling with the men that I work with. I love them dearly. Very much.
And are you working with men who are also uncircumcised? Because we didn't really touch on that much, but I know for a lot of them, there's a lot of trauma because of the bullying that they've experienced, especially in the United States. So I know there's that whole aspect of it too.
Yeah. I've had a lot of them reach out to me. I have not worked with an intact man quite yet. I wonder if it's just because it's like, I'm, spiritual healer, circumcision, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So
you also had the dream where literally a circumcised baby.
Remember the genital shaming and the bullet points of the matrix man, they're still suffering. And they have, I have a couple of them that they've almost gone to go get circumcised. And those stories are god awful. Again, here's another layer. We got the infant, we have the Islam boy, and then we have these older men who have been told their dick is gross and disgusting and nobody wants to touch that. And so they end up going or they don't go. I mean, the level of toxicity inside of them is devastating because they've been shamed. I've had some, they all their life, they would just retract their foreskin back in the locker room and just agree to the jokes and laughter about foreskins all their life, gone to these appointments and done it, had the circumcision. And the pain, but not just the physical, but the emotional and the grieving loss. Because imagine you have an HD, beautiful screen colored TV, and then you get a pixelated black and white. That's how they contrast the difference. It is an extreme, profound difference in pleasure and sensation. And one thing that I didn't state about the foreskin is that the foreskin within it has receptors in it that move all the way up the brainstem into his brain that allow him to release neurochemicals to fall in love and to bond.
Wow.
So we've totally hijacked the bonding capacity and that closeness for the souls, the souls that are occupying these bodies to come together and to feel and really want without ego to create pleasure for their partner. It doesn't become from them anymore. When your pleasure becomes about your partner, I don't have to worry about it because he's worrying about me, vice versa. And then what actually happens energetically is a portal can be created within that. And that's where the magic can really happen and what another layer of the immaculate conception can start to happen through a couple. Yeah, they'll call me and be like, I'm devastated because I was an intact man, drank the Kool-Aid, and now I'm miserable and I'll never get that back, ever. Yeah.
But they can still reconcile that through working with you at the end of the day.
Yeah, because we didn't touch on foreskin restoration, which, if you want to go there. Yeah. But what I tell a lot of the men, especially in the intactivist world, like they're so angry, they're so hurt, they're so upset. And
intactivist, by the way, is an intact activist, an activist for being intact.
It's this generalization. It's a cut man who is advocating for intact men, for no longer castrating children. And they are the body. They are the body. So they are convinced that foreskin restoration, a lot of men are, not just them. I'm not just, secluding them. But they are convinced that the foreskin restoration is the end-all, be-all healing. But how can that be the end-all, be-all healing if you still have a psychological and emotional body to deal with? Because imagine you grew a foreskin, but you still lost it. So the emotional dissolving of all that pain it's still it's just lodged still in the body and piercing the heart. So it's a temporary Band-Aid. There's also this company called Forgin that is in Italy. And a lot of these men for years, I think a couple decades, that might be too much, maybe a decade. I'm going to go, that's as far as I'm going to go. Do your research. And they are creating right now a foreskin. They're having foreskin donations from donors, real voluntary donors. Send them real live foreskins so they can start to formulate and create an actual implant. And these men have been donating money, thousands of dollars to them for years, hoping and praying that one day they're going to get their foreskin back. But can you imagine? Okay, Forgin comes to be super successful. Imagine that though, this mechanical engineering marvel of a foreskin, getting it back, like it
doesn't seem
so
right.
Complex.
Yeah.
But okay, it's successful. Yep, yeah. But then over time, I have a literally fake piece of skin covering my genitals. It's not mine because still inside, I'm not enough. I'm unlovable and I'm unworthy. And that is still going to be feeding into him and it's going to feed into his woman.
I would argue that the need to do that physically after the fact in most cases would probably be stemming from I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy,
exactly,
et cetera,
exactly.
To go to that length to have basically a prosthetic put in place of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because I feel like if you heal at the level of allowing your soul to fully express through your body, you don't need to worry about that.
No, you don't, because you've transcended that. And you feel whole. There are no needs. And so you can show up fully in the sexual space without having to perform. You're allowing the body to do what the body does naturally. There's no mind, there's no voice, there's no entity getting in the way, judging yourself. So yeah, totally. It's just fascinating the ways that we have these needs and how they're creating all these other needs and all these other businesses too. So the intact man, I mean, even in a good friend of mine, he sent me, he's intact. And the difference between the men is also so unbelievably nuanced and crazy.
Of course.
It's so interesting to be with an intact man and with a cut man, specifically a cut man who's not done any form of internal work.
Yeah.
But the MTV used to have this. Do you remember it was like After Dark? There was like a sexy After Dark series of some sort. It was like
I used to watch BET. So.
Oh, you were a BET guy.
Yeah. Hot 106 Park with AJ and Free.
Nice.
Rhapsody the Basement. But yeah, I did watch MTV
I was like MTV and Jerry Springer.
Okay.
So don't count my age with that one. But there's episodes dedicated to a teenage kid who was being mocked and laughed at for having a foreskin. His girlfriend, right before she went down on him, was like, ew, gross, oh my God. And the whole episode was about him going to the doctor and doing all the things he needed to do because it was so disgusting and he needed to get a circumcision.
Fucking A. It's insane.
Yeah, like that's the cultural egregore, right? So that's huge. So imagine just showing up and not knowing whether or not a woman is going to accept you because you're whole.
Sure, that's pretty common in the US. Yeah.
It's very common.
Yeah, that's fucking insane.
Yeah. And so a lot of them still want to cut. A lot of them are still just
ashamed of being intact.
Yeah, they won't do the work. You know, like you can complain all you want, but their own trauma is going to keep them in a loop, and that's going to prevent them from doing the things that they need to do. So that's their own karma and their own story. But for the most part, yeah, they are suffering just as much, and we're all suffering from genital shame. It's a global pandemic.
Totally, on all sides, male and female, for sure.
The women portion of it, I shared my experience about it, and I'm not the only one, and there's definitely a lot more detail, but for the most part, like shame on the frequency, like level, measurement level, shame is as close to hell as it gets.
Yeah, on the Hawkins scale.
That's the residue. That's the scum of the earth. And us as these beautiful beings to co-create, to utilize our genitalia for that sake of creating a new generation, creating a new world, a new civilization, like I stated earlier. Control the womb, control the genitalia, control the world.
Totally.
Like, that's why I was saying this is a dark rabbit hole, because
the ultimate act of creation carries
it's everything.
So much shame.
It's the portal. So like, honestly, like blame why can't I say it? Heliocentrism. That's the first time I've never been able to pronounce that word. Heliocentrism. Yeah. Monet. But all of that, it's an archetype, it's a trauma-filled person, and for the most part, it's all stemming from someone who has some form of crazy physical genital shame.
Yeah. It's wild
and we're just tricking one another, and this conforming. Because in Judaism, I know that they use circumcision as a way to conform, for conformity. And they did it to slaves.
They overtly state that?
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah, they want them in the bedroom because she's unsatisfied. He's coming quickly. She's aroused and frustrated. And she's like, F you, bro. I don't trust you. I'm not, like, why would I want to have sex with you? And every time he comes quick, the body is remembering the circumcision. And he's in deep pain because he's a man. What haunts a man more than anything other than the need to be successful and respected is not being able to please his woman. Huge. Now, you might as well put that top. Unable to please your woman, or like you can please your woman and you're successful, bro. That's your life.
Yeah, for real though. For most men, like that is the thing.
I'm telling you. No, I'm real. Like that's it. So it's just the pop culture of it all and the way that it works. It's control the genitalia, control the world.
It's wild to think about it in that it's like the ultimate act of co-creation. Literally the ultimate act of co-creation, and it carries arguably the most shame about it. Like that is wild to think about it.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
not only the co-creation, but also the immaculate conception.
Yeah.
So those are two outlets of creation.
Yep. Just wild to think about that. Like that is what carries the most shame. And it's like, of course, if someone wanted, if some mind virus, if some demonic entity or entities wanted to really entrench itself into mankind, you would make it so that the most beautiful act of love and reverence for another being that co-creates a whole another being through a portal, like that would carry the most shame. Of course. It makes so much sense.
We just sealed it, nailed it. Let's write our names on it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
No, it's it.
So if a guy wants to work with you, let me ask this first, actually, as a final two questions. How would a guy know whether they need to do work related to healing the wounds associated with circumcision?
Through the types of thoughts that they have. When there's like no peace, no space between thoughts, like peace originated with creation. And the space between us is peace. That's the only thing that exists between you and me in this moment is peace. You can have a man running with a knife to another man. The space between them is just peace. So our thoughts are, there's no peace, there's no space. Look at us in traffic. Like we're getting angry and mad and frustrated. So if you don't have stable thoughts, if you don't love yourself, if you feel unworthy, if you've been rejecting yourself, holding on to something, you've never ever had the ability or the safety to share that with someone. And if you are unable to go from point A to point B, you get frustrated because you're not grounding in these things. You know that you want to be somewhere, but you just can't figure it out. You have someone that's like there to show up, to teach you amazing tools, to help you literally move into a whole new timeline of creating so that you can restore and be an ancestor that chose to heal and get rid of circumcision. Circumcision will continue to exist. Okay, we get the call, boom, Trump said circumcision's done in America. But is it? No. We have millions. It's like 1.2 million babies a year are cut. Millions of men are cut. They will, if they don't heal it, give it to their children. So it will continue on. The claws of the circumcision beast will continue to exist unless we're all doing the internal work and removing the thorns that are preventing us from accessing our Christ self, that are preventing us from having this free flow of energy, that are helping us have more space in our mind for all the things that I said about the vertical alignment, to tap into that power, that source of knowing where to go and how to navigate life, to attract a beautiful, healed woman who is also on purpose, who is also in alignment in her own space, so you can come together, guard and be guardians for one another. Like the idea that in relationships, we're guardians for each other's healing, because it is through a relationship that we can catapult into higher realms of consciousness, into more spiritual evolution. Because we have it in us, like, you know what, babe, like, I'm noticing a need. I'm noticing a little something. And if you're really on wanting to enter into divine masculinity, then you're going to say, awesome, thank you for pointing that out. Let's work on it, right? But like these systems, the governmental laws, the layers, these religious egregores will not dissolve. Like I said, the nervous system of the field, it's the micro and the macro, right? We're imitations of one another. So to prevail, to win the spiritual war, we have to restore the divine masculinity. We have to cultivate a whole new egregore that comes up and actually dissolves the old systems. But we're not going to do it by hating on each other, competing with one another, running up to buildings, holding up all the signs, saying all the things. That's feeding the beast. That's the same energy. That's the same energy that's cutting children. That's the same energy that's writing down those laws. That's the same energy that's trying to create, a 15-minute city, if that's the thing that's happening. Like, it is the duty of man to rise, to not execute, eradicate these needs that are keeping him tied into the system. We have to have this new mastermind. What you're creating at Confluence, the restoration of community, which is so beautiful. Men need to do the same. So if you want to do that.
And we'll put all that in the show notes for any of the men out there that want to work with Jenna.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For this conversation.
It was so beautiful. Thank you for having me. Man, like just to speak upon circumcision, I never thought we would get here. I thought I was just some person in the corner hoping, but not to say that that's coming from this place of this need, but it's coming from like humanity deserves an audience for this trauma. And if I'm the vessel to carry that mission through, I thank God every day. So thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah.